So now we have a general idea of what a game theory matrix or a payoff matrix kind of looks like, how to interpret the payoffs and the strategies, or the strategies involved in the payoffs associated with them. So let's discuss three different concepts related to the strategies and outcomes of these games. So the first one we're going to talk about is going to be dominant strategies. So it's about a strategy. So we had two strategies in that simple game we saw. It was, cooperate or compete. And what a dominant strategy is, it's a strategy that's going to result in a higher payoff no matter what the other firm's strategy is, or the other player's strategy. So a strategy that results in a higher payoff no matter what the other firm's strategy is. So let's apply this to that game that we kind of just wrote out before. So remember we had two firms, firm A and firm B. And they each had two strategies. It was cooperate and cooperate, or the other one was, for each of them, was compete and compete. Then we could make our payoffs. Remember, if they cooperated, they split the monopoly outcome and they each got 20. If they both competed, they'd produce a higher Q, which would result in a lower payoff each, and they got, I think it was 17 each. And then the other two payoffs were when their strategies differed. So if firm A competes, they're going to produce more, and firm B cooperates, it's going to be a larger payoff to firm A because they're producing more. 22 and 15, it was symmetric, so if firm A cooperated and the other firm competed, they'd only get 15, where the other firm B would get 22. And so let's apply this idea of dominant strategies to this game here. Okay, so we want to see, let's put ourselves in firm A's shoes. And a dominant strategy is going to mean that we get a higher payoff from either cooperating or competing no matter what the other firm does. And so here, compete is going to be a dominant strategy for firm A. I feel like wearing light clothes was not the greatest decision today. So dominant strategy. And so why it's a dominant strategy is that if firm A competes, they get 22 if the other firm cooperates and they compete, or they get 17 if the other player competes and they compete. This is a higher payoff than cooperating, right? So 22 is greater than 20. So playing this strategy, playing compete, is better than playing cooperate if firm B is cooperating. Because if you compete, you get 22, whereas if you cooperate, you only get 20. And that's true again if the other firm's competing. So if the other firm competes, we'd get 17 if we competed, if we're firm A. But if we cooperated, we only get 15. So the payoffs from competing are higher no matter what the other firm does. And so this means that no matter what, we should just always play this strategy of competing. So this means competing is a dominant strategy for firm A. I mean, because this game's symmetric, it's also going to be a dominant strategy for firm B, but let's just go through it. So let's put ourselves in firm B's shoes. So if we cooperate and the other firm cooperates, we get 22. But if the other firm is cooperating and we compete, we get 20, I should say. But if we compete and the other firm cooperates, we get 22. 22 is bigger than 20. So it's better for us to compete if the other firm is cooperating. And now if the other firm's competing and we compete, we get 17 if we're firm B. But if we cooperate and the other firm's competing, we only get 15. So again, 22 is bigger than 20 and 17 is bigger than 15. So no matter what firm A is doing, no matter if they're competing or cooperating, we always get higher payoffs from competing. And so again, for firm B, this is going to be a dominant strategy. So it's the strategy we want to play, gives us a higher payoff no matter what the other firm's doing. Doesn't matter if the other firm's competing or cooperating, firm B always gets a higher payoff from competing. And so they're always going to compete. And firm A is always going to compete. That's what a dominant strategy is. Now let's turn our attention to, so it's a dominant strategy because it's about a strategy. It's about whether we should always play one strategy. Now let's turn our attention to outcomes. So where we're going to end up. Which of these 4 different cells that we're going to end up in. And we're going to cover 2 different outcomes that we might think might happen, which is going to be the cooperative outcome. And that's when these firms, think of that as like collusion a bit, when these firms are cooperating to maximize their joint profits. And we'll revisit that idea of Nash equilibrium, where neither firm has an incentive to deviate from their decision, even knowing what the other firm is doing.